Hey guys, it's Josh Kalinowski, Corner Office, back at you again in another podcast. And today's guest, we've got the one and the only, the man, the myth, a personally great friend of mine, Keith Everitt with Coldwell Banker Distinctive Properties. How you doing, brother?
Great. Thanks for having me on, man.
Hey man, it is a pleasure. I'm so excited. You know, last week we were able to interview Keenan, one of your agents in your guys' firm there. So we thought we'd go a little bit level up and kind of get a little higher up, maybe the managers, the brokers, the owners, and those that actually are the ones making the difference in the agent. So Keith, we are ecstatic to have you on today's podcast.
Well, thank you.
All right, my man. So you are, I want to give it a little title here, and then I'm going to have you kind of describe this, but you are the managing director for 3 of the offices. You guys have 9, correct?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
9. I know you're working on some more, but you have 9 as of right now.
That's right.
And then you're also the recruiting director for the entire company. Is that correct?
Yes. I oversee the managing directors and their recruiting activities in all those other offices.
Okay. So, and then not only to add more to your plate, you also have a team that is servicing clients buying and selling.
Yes, I do. I have 2 agents that work with me on a daily basis for sales.
Fantastic. So do you have a life outside of real estate?
Interestingly enough, yes. It's been one of the challenges that most agents are going to face, throughout the length of their career is managing time, and it's always something that we can get better with. And I think that is something that we really need to focus on, and it's working out pretty good for me right now.
Yeah, and I think honestly, one of the reasons I'm really excited to have you on this episode is because of that time management. How do we balance or balancing the areas in our life when we do have so much on our plate and we're trying to spin all these plates? But talk a little bit more about managing director. So as a managing director of 3 offices, the title sounds really cool, but really, what is it that you're doing on a daily basis?
Well, on a daily basis, our job as managing directors is to recruit, retain, and train all of our agents. And if it's not fitting into one of those goals, I shouldn't be doing it. So we want to grow the office. We have numbers that prove without a doubt that a bigger office produces more, high producing agents, and it's better for agents. We have more signs out in the community, and it's a bigger impact on the market as a whole, but it grows individuals' businesses as well. So the recruiting side, that's why that's so important. The retaining side, once I have an agent in my office, I feel personally responsible to help impact and change their life. And they give me their goals, and my leadership staff, my entire organization, we're dedicated to that person and helping them realize those goals. Then the training aspect of it, the next Josh Kalinowski, super agent, isn't in the business right now. So we want to bring those guys in, groom them, train them, and give them every opportunity to succeed at whatever level they want to grow to. So if I'm doing something and it's not fitting into one of those 3 areas, I need to reevaluate that if I'm doing the right things as a managing director at that time.
Awesome, man. That was a great explanation there. And I think one of the things as we've gotten to know your guys' company, and it really aligns well with what we continue to do as a company, is we're in the business of changing lives. Real estate just happens to be what we're doing, but it's the business of changing lives. So I love that you brought that out. So, okay, so that's managing director position. And then you're also the director for recruiting for the entire company. Tell us about that. Who are you training? Who are you coaching? And how does that kind of funnel down throughout the organization?
Well, we have managing directors in every one of the offices. And in the offices that I'm the managing director, I have sales managers that act a cross between a manager for the office and a recruiting manager for the office as well. So what we do is, one of the most important things about coaching is being accountable. One of my main jobs as a recruiting director is holding them accountable to their goals. At the beginning of the year, we sit down, we look at numbers, we look at where their market's going and what their offices are looking like and where we want to be. So we set the goals, working backwards. What do I need to do on a daily basis in order to reach those goals? So how much time, energy, do I need to spend to get to the recruiting numbers that we want for that office? If there are gaps and we're not really being successful, where's the gap? If they're talking to the agents and they're not having success, then we need to talk to them about how they're presenting our value proposition to agents. And of course, for me, I can't believe anybody wouldn't join our company with our value proposition. So there's got to be something we're doing wrong with that message, which of course is not always true. But different strategies, because you're not going to get everybody, in a market to want to join your company. Then you have to think about, I want to be your next backup plan. I want to be there for you if something goes wrong, and I want to stay in a relationship with you. So just the training in those types of aspects of recruiting, and it's all about relationships, making sure that we are staying in relationships with the brokers outside of our company as well as the ones inside our company.
Yeah, and I think that's a really good point what you just brought up there. I think, first of all, I love the plan B aspect of what you're talking about, right? If something happens, what's your plan B? And we've had numerous conversations about that. It's really helped as we've grown our company about being plan B for other agents, but also just that relationship with other brokerages, because one of the great ways that you guys have been able to grow is mergers and acquisitions. You're not just always adding agents, you're adding companies to the growth of Distinctive Properties.
Right. Mm-hmm. One benefit of having the size that we have in the backing of a brand like Coldwell Banker is that we can offer things to people because of economies of scale that a small company cannot add. Even if I go into a market where we have 5% market share and somebody has 25% of the market share, the combined power of our company is something that we're able to leverage. And when I talk to people, I have had people that run companies just breathe a sigh of relief. You mean I don't have to do that anymore? You mean I can go back to sales? You mean that you're going to do the marketing for me? And it's just an incredible conversation to see. It's like a weight's being lifted off their shoulders. So having relationships with those guys, we're not better than you. It's not your fault that you're not as big as us. Let us help. So it's a great conversation to have.
Yeah, that's great. Well, and I think it's really important to talk to. I mean, I know that you probably, you're still growing as a leader. You're still growing as a managing director. You're still growing your team and your production as well too. But you've been in real estate for a while. You've had some really great positions in the past. So maybe give people a point of reference. Like, what's the foundation? Who's Keith? Why has he been successful? Why is he in this position right now? And what makes you the leader you are today?
Great question. Love that question. I have career ADD. I did until I got into real estate. I was in the Army for a while, non-commissioned officer, learned a lot about leadership there. Sports, being captains of, athletic teams was a lot to do with it. I came to Colorado to be a skiing and mountain biking bum from Florida and fell into leadership in restaurant business. And that industry, service orientation translated well into real estate. You just couldn't make money there. So 2003, I made the leap, had 3 months worth of savings in my savings account. I had just adopted 2 kids with my wife and made the jump anyway into real estate. So it's kind of sink or swim. Rookie of the year, top team on the west side of Denver with Coldwell Banker back in the day. Really had that thirst for leadership though. So at the time, Coldwell Banker in Denver, they're the residential brokerage big guys, decided they were going to shrink their brick and mortar with the impending recession starting to hit. So they went from a bunch of offices to less than half of what they had before. Incredible leaders in that company get shrunk into those positions, and I was in the leadership development program, but it just went away because it just wasn't a higher priority at the time because they didn't need it. Keller Williams came knocking. So 2010, I took the position with Keller Williams as the CEO, team leader of one of their offices. That was in Conifer, Colorado. Helped open the Evergreen Luxury Keller Williams. And then I was still doing it. We were on a small scale, so it was a part-time gig. And I was still selling. And I had some really incredible success. But 14 sides under contract in 41 days. And then that price point is pretty slick, and I had to tell my operating partner that I couldn't afford not to be in real estate right then. And so I stepped down, and then some other offices started calling me, which I really had the passion for leadership. Came out to Grand Junction, and though it was a great opportunity, the fit wasn't there. Their model didn't fit with my model ideas. So I went back into sales for about 45 minutes when Todd Conklin came along. The guys I'd worked with in Denver said that I should meet him, told him that we should get together, and been a great fit with a passion for changing people's lives. He had me, that second meeting that we had, when you walk through the door each day in this office as a leader, you need to be thinking about whose life you're going to change. Sold. And it's just been, a whirlwind of a trip since.
Yeah, and you've really grown through that as well too. I know that your position in the company, I think that's one of the, we got to know each other about 3 or 4 years ago, actually. And it's just been awesome to see not only how the company has grown, but even just your position has grown throughout the company. Now, you guys are known for one of the fastest growing real estate companies in the United States, correct?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And what do you think has been the one thing that is, if you could put one thing on it, and we know it's a lot, right? It's not just one thing, but if you were to say, I really believe that this is the heart and soul, this is why we've grown as much as we've grown, what do you think that is?
It's a commitment to the passion of changing people's lives. When I have a bad day, not too often, but when I do, that I just think about, someone like Keenan, who came into our company. He had been a part-time real estate while he was finishing up his business degree in college. Came out, to Grand Junction, and seeing what he's been able to do is just incredible. I mean, in 2 years, he's 30 under 30 with Coldwell Banker, and we've made a real impact on his life. And I see it every day with someone. And if I have one of those head down moments, I look at somebody who I feel I've been able to help, and it's been incredible.
Yeah, that's awesome. I want to shift focus a little bit because, that's the managerial part of it. But you also, you're living, breathing, selling real estate even at this day right now. You've got a great team. Had the pleasure of meeting them a couple of weeks ago. Talk about that. How do you balance both obviously managing and coaching and leading, but then you also have a team that has to be producing? Talk about the team. What do you do? What are your goals?
Okay. Well, I try my best not to be a competing broker, but I want to stay in the game, and I need to be out there on the front lines, I feel, so I can really be an effective coach and leader for these guys. Most of the leads that I generate are from relationships I've made all over the country in real estate with both companies I've worked for, and my friendships. So as those leads come in, most of the time they go out to one of my team members. We have some lead generation sources. I hold them accountable for making, their lead generation calls and being systemized. And, it's just like coaching someone else. Sometimes, you got to, hold them a little bit more accountable. But being in that close of a relationship with people, it's awesome when you see them succeeding as well. And I learned something Gary Keller wrote in a book is the 3 L's: leads, listings, leverage. And the leverage component of that, if you can create leverage with someone and you're changing their life as well as them helping you, the win-win dynamic, it's always incredible. And that's what we're striving for with our team.
Awesome, man. One of the things I love about your company is that every time that we talk, every time we have conversations, you're so progressive in everything and what you're doing, right? You're always trying to find out what more value can we bring to the agents? What do we need to do as an office? What are the areas we need to grow in? Talk about that process, because I think as CEOs, often we feel sometimes we're just isolated or we're all in this by ourselves. What's the difference? How do you guys grow at the rate you do? Is it just one person making the decisions, or do you have an entire leadership team? Talk about that.
That's a great question. Very timely question as well. If you rely on one person and a tunnel vision of one person, I think that you're just doomed to failure. And as fast as this market is changing right now, and you can't be an expert in everything. So what Todd Conklin, our owner, has done is surrounded himself by a lot of people that want to think progressively. He's very open to the idea. as managing directors in each office, we're encouraged to invite people to come talk to us. We do surveys on a regular basis, creating fan clubs out of our agents to know what they want. And we are constantly traveling to events where we're going to learn front end, cutting edge technology. And it's not just technology, it's a different switch in your mindset sometimes. So I just had a advisory council meeting with some of my top agents. And I don't mix it up, they have to be the top producing agents. I have a 20-something, Keenan, that is on there. I've got someone that's been in the business that has already retired, who sits on there with us that gives his input, who used to run our organization, years ago. We have, different production levels, but they're all people that are committed to real estate. I wouldn't put somebody who's part-time, not doing the work on there. They'd ask me to do their lead generation for them. I'm asking guys that are working it and they're doing it what they need and what they would like to see. So we're getting input from our agents, we're getting input from the industry, we're getting input from outside the industry, and we have an environment that welcomes that input.
I love that. I think oftentimes as leaders, we miss the stuff that's even right in front of our face. So I think just by going to our agents in our own office and finding out either what their needs are, or what the success that they're seeing, and what are the results of that. So I think it's brilliant. If anybody, when they're listening to this or watching this, if you're going to take one thing away from that, I really think that that's what you can take away from here. You don't have to go far to find out leaders in your own company, right?
Yeah, that's one of the, from being in the Army, I'm always looking for my replacement because I could get shot. I'm always looking to develop leaders, to develop talent, and it's awesome to get that kind of feedback from your agents.
Yeah,
and
that's great.
It empowers them,
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so I got to ask you the question. So what do the next 3 years for Keith look like?
Well, I'm going to kick Todd Conklin out of his job this year. I've always wanted to work. Okay, I'm going to back up a little bit. John Maxwell talks about his growth as a leadership development person. And he talks about how, he was helping the people in this one church, but he had the ability to do so much more. So he helped develop leaders. I've always had that feeling that I would like to be a person that helped develop guys. So instead of me being able to help an office of 100 agents, and kind of that's a stretch too. I mean, that's pushing it, being able to help that many people. Creating leaders that can help more people, so having a bigger and bigger impact. And I don't know that Todd has ever spoken this way, but that's what I see him doing right now as he's able to grow the company. He can't spend as much time, but he's spending time that he is committing to developing his leadership team and lead them as leaders as well. So that's been something that I've been thinking about since probably 2012, 2013. I sat down with Todd at the beginning of our courtship to work together. He asked the point blank question, kind of like you just asked, what does the future look like you? Where are you in 5 years? And I'm running a region of real estate companies. And he's been committed to help me on that path. And I still see it. And I've got to give shout out to my guys. I mean, Tim, Whitney, Alan, and Lisa down in Montrose, and Mark and Carrie up in Grand Junction. Seeing their growth and their abilities just grow is very rewarding, and seeing them be able to help more people because their development has been terrific. That's
great, buddy. First of all, I cannot get out the word the fact that you use courtship, and I'm going to forever razz Todd about that. So courtship is on, yeah. And I love it that you kind of did a little bit of a plug for corner office, because it's right? This is where leaders grow leaders. And really, if you want to be successful as a organization, it can't just be about you, right? Your ceiling is so low. And when you include other people, when you develop other people, when you develop other leaders, that's when you have that exponential growth.
It's true. Yep.
Yeah. Well, it's been fun to see you guys obviously grow. I know that we get a lot. I mean, just the conversations that we get to go back and forth. I think hopefully I know we take a lot more, but obviously hopefully we're providing some stuff on our end for you as well too. So tell me, obviously the next 3 years is kind of where you want to go. What has been your career highlight so far?
Ooh. That's an interesting one. That's a good one. Never even really thought about that. I've just been concentrating on forward thinking so much. I really do. I'm really proud of what we've accomplished in Grand Junction. I am. I think I was agent number 31, and we don't have the kind of drive to be huge offices like the Keller model would be. I mean, they want you to be from 140 to 700 agents, and it works really well for them. But I don't. I mean, when you want to be so impactful on individuals' lives, I don't see us being that big. But getting to 90 agents. Last year, we grew their average transactions from 11 to 16 transactions in a period of 1 year. And we're bringing on a bunch of new people as well. Crazy. I am very proud of our team and what we've been able to accomplish for our agents in Grand Junction. It's probably the highlight. Personally, in production, I've had a couple of big deals that were super fun, super intricate. My team and I did the biggest deal in the county a couple of years ago, still to this day, biggest residential deal. And it had this incredible amount of really complex water rights and the team, how we worked together and were able to make that thing just click. Very exciting. And utilizing tools that, we threw out there, got an international buyer, got them on the phone, got them in town, bam. It's pretty cool. Like when it happens like that.
Yeah, I love that. That's great, buddy. So as you've continued to develop as a leader, there's things that we have to take off our plate. There's adjustments in our life, in our lifestyle that you have to typically grow. And I guess what I want to know is what has been the biggest adjustment in your personal life that has allowed you to grow to the level of success and leadership that you're at right now?
Learning what to say no to is more important than having everything on your calendar perfectly. And it's hard for me. I am able to say no to things that aren't going to fit in one of those three categories we talked about as managing director, and able to say yes to more with my family. And having to have that conversation with my family, like, my wife still thinks I'm a real estate agent that can just go run an errand for her whenever, the time.
Yeah.
That's been a little bit of a challenge because I'm more of I have a schedule that is very detailed now, and sticking to it is the difference between success and failure in my job. And, making sure that the time I have with them is quality time is one of the most important things to do. So I don't know if that answered your question, but learning what to say no to, for me, I didn't ever like to say no. Throw on the super cape and save everybody, save the world, when all I'm doing is training them to rely on me instead of training them to rely on themselves. So there you go.
No, I think that's great. In fact, I remember I was listening to a Dave Ramsey EntreLeadership podcast, and one of the things they talked about is like the 25 ways to say no creatively. Because I think it is key. I mean, we as real estate agents, or just we as entrepreneurs and leaders, that is the one barrier that we don't really know how to do. We don't know how to do it because we feel like that's part of our responsibility. But that's also that, hey, listen, we're important and we need to be involved in that. And we understand. And unfortunately, sometimes our families are the ones that are sacrificed when we don't say no.
I'd like to give a shout out to Brian Smith, who was one of the people that trained me in Keller Williams in leadership. And he said, when someone comes to you and you don't want to say no to them because you care about them and you have to honor your calendar. And he said, hey, Josh, is this a 1-minute question or do we need to set an appointment to talk about this later?
That's brilliant.
Freedom, man. And then by the time they get to the appointment, they've solved the problem themselves. They've asked one of their agents that's probably knows more about the market right now than I do, and they've gotten a great answer. And they learned how to do it themselves instead of rely on someone else. They're becoming self-reliant. And as an entrepreneur, which they are, it's a huge lesson for them.
That's great. And tip number 2. So if you guys are writing all this stuff down, there's tip number 2. I love that. It's a great response. All right. So if you were able to go back in time when you were first an agent knowing now what you know, what is a piece of advice that you give yourself?
This is a really good one because I work with a lot of new agents, and I talk to them a lot about this. Number one, accept that you're going to be drinking from a fire hose for 2 years, and everybody does it. And all these failures you think you're experiencing and challenges, we all face those. Just push through. And another one is, I think about climbing a 14er. 70-pound pack, and you get above 13,000 feet and you can't breathe and your lungs are killing you. And it's like one more step. And then you take that step. You take a breath and you take one more step.
Yeah.
And you know where the goal is. And you don't have to have these, gigantic leaps in success. You just got to make sure you take that next step. Yeah. And it'll come to you. Be patient. Do the work. There's no silver bullet. Do the work. Make the calls, and it's such a great career, and we get to help people, and we get paid very well for a very low amount of capital input as a real estate agent. There's nowhere you can make the kind of money you can in real estate with this little capital down. Mm-hmm. So get out there and do the work. Learn. Always be learning. You have to have the mindset of always learning, and you'll be fine.
I can think of a couple agents already that I'm thinking of that this definitely is going to in this podcast. So that's great advice. I love the fire hose analogy. We use that a lot as well too. So, okay, so let's kind of transition that into, agents that have been in this industry for 5 years or 6 years, and they've kind of gone through their sphere of influence, and they know the tracks, but they maybe haven't created the great habits. What piece of advice would you give to somebody that wants to go from average and mediocre to exceptional and great and a top producer?
If they haven't gotten there, they don't have a strong enough why behind that success. You need to look inside yourself and find out why you want that, why you think you want that. And it may be that you don't, and that's okay. But if you really are committed to that kind of growth, then you need to find that driver, what that reason is. A lot of people, it's money. A lot of people, it's, I want to be seen as successful. I want to be in the top 10 on my board. Whatever the reason is, that's why do you want a lot of money? Why do you want to be top 10 of your board? Because if you can't identify that, and I taught, finding your why for years without having clarity on mine. Yeah. And, it came to me one day teaching the class, sitting watching Simon Sinek's video about start with why, and I saw this common thread through my entire life, through everything I've done, and bam, clear as day. I mean, I'm here to help people. That's what I do. I like to lead and help and assist and grow, and if you, it was very interesting too, because we had hit a ceiling of achievement in the company at that time, and we had this incredible, growth spurt right after that. And it's, again, question you asked me earlier, about why I'm doing this is because I'm passionate about this, and I've had success because I want to change people's lives. When you get the clarity of your goal, the reason behind I want to make $1 million, is it because the number you're keeping track, or I want to be able to help more people, or I want to fund my kids' college, or I'm 53 years old and I don't have a retirement yet? What is it? When you find that, you'll be able to take the next leap and then do the work. Listen to the coaches, look at the systems, model after somebody that's successful, and just do the work.
Yeah, I think what you said right there, I love how you finished that up there, because the execution is where all the success is at, right? I mean, understanding your why, trying to figure that out, that's a process in itself. Thank you for answering it, because that was my next follow-up question, is what your why was. But the execution, it's all in the execution, right?
It is, and that's something that, we're led as Americans to believe there's a magic bullet. You can lose 30 pounds in 2 days. You can, sit back and I do believe in the idea behind The Secret and the law of attraction, but that's the first step. You got to do the work after that. And those two pull you together, and it's a very simple business, but it's not easy.
Yeah, exactly.
We dropped the ball on doing the work.
Yeah, love it, man. That's absolutely. So speaking of work, so what is the biggest thing that you are working on in order for you to get to that next level?
I know that Conklin dude's going to be watching this. I was just talking with a very successful agent a little while ago, and it always boils down to time management for me and how effective I am in the time that I do, and continuing to grow to know what to say no to. And I make a joke. Mark, God bless him, my new sales manager, is doing sales, trying to learn the job, and he's a hot mess right now. And coaching him through it, I can see what Todd did when he was doing the same for me. I made so many strides. However, there's always that thing that you can do. I so hunger for knowledge and learning. But if you fill your head with a bunch of information, you fail to execute, it falls flat. So I've got the knowledge, creating the time to execute at the best of my ability. And
so speaking of, yeah, go ahead.
Well, if you'd have said, 4 years ago that I'd be where I am right now, I would have kind of laughed, because literally ADD boy. I mean,
yeah.
I've got to have the Pomodoro timer going on to stay focused for 25 minutes. But it's been a great journey.
That's great. So speaking of that, so influencing, right? Who are the people that influence you? Who are the people that you follow that help get you to that next level?
I love John Maxwell as a leadership trainer. Tom Ferry is someone that I really appreciate. He gives and gives. I mean, on his podcast or his video channel on YouTube, you can get so much incredible information. Givers are somebody that I really am attracted to, business-wise. Obviously, I love the friendships that I've developed with you and Todd, and what we push each other. That's something that really is helpful. I really got to give a lot of props out to Coldwell Banker leadership, and in particular the guys on the front range, Kevin Risen, Todd Morgan, and Chris McGatt. Those guys have been incredibly helpful for both of our companies. And watching, I found the second Chris McGatt with Tom Ferry. Dude, there's no way you're always that happy. There's no way. What the heck? What kind of drugs you take? I rode road bikes, over 1,000 miles with Chris McGatt, and man, isn't this great? We're riding in the rain, semis buzzing by us, and we're on mile 90, and it's all the way we want to, put it out there.
Yeah, it's all the perspective we have right there. We can choose to be happy. We can choose glass is half empty, glass is half full, right?
Yeah, exactly.
All right, buddy. Well, man, I don't know about you, but I took away a ton of stuff. So thank you so much for that. This is going to be a great episode for a lot of agents out there. It's going to be a great episode for a lot of CEOs out there. And I know I'm going to be listening to this because there's some definite gems that you helped me with personally as well, too. So I got my lightning round, though. So I always end this with 10 questions or 10-ish questions. So you ready for this?
All right.
All right, here we go. What are you winning at right now?
What am I doing? What now? I'm sorry.
What are you winning at right now?
Resiliency.
Interesting.
50 times, coming back.
Okay. Give us a book you're reading right now.
Humans are underrated.
Okay. Okay.
Artificial intelligence coming into the market, pushing all the humans out of the jobs. And it talks about what we really do well. And if you do want the nugget from that book, storytelling in real estate is going to be huge. We tell stories, and you need to be face-to-face. The video's better than on the phone. Tell the story about your listing. Tell the story about your company. Tell the story, and it is so much more impactful.
I love it. And story brand is what we do a lot. It's telling the story. Absolutely couldn't agree with you more. Podcasts you're following?
I'm not a big podcast person. I listen to YouTube videos while I'm driving. I don't watch them. I listen to them in a book, or I listen to a lot of Tom Ferry stuff.
Okay, love it. What's your guilty pleasure, brother?
Oh, well, there's a couple of them. Sneaking off the mountain bike during season, that's a guilty pleasure. Then rewarding myself with a nice beer afterwards is a guilty pleasure.
Yes, all right, perfect. What's your go-to movie?
Ah, man, it's double duty. If I was on a desert island with just one album, what would I listen to? And it would be Singles the movie, Singles the soundtrack.
Interesting. Okay. If you had a superpower, what would that be?
I guess bulletproof. Luke Cage.
Okay. All right. I think I know the answer to this already, but if you were to choose beach or mountains, what would it be?
Yeah, you're right. I did beach growing up in Florida. I'm a mountain boy now.
Yeah. Okay. Perfect. I knew that. Early morning riser or night owl?
4:10 in the morning. And it was very difficult leaving the restaurant industry, being a night owl, becoming an early riser.
All right. Outside of real estate, what's the most impactful thing you've done?
I volunteered a lot on the Front Range when I was living over there, and Clear Creek Recreation District. I think I had a really big impact on some good people over there in that role, growing the rec district itself, and all the services that we provided, because it's kind of isolated in the mountain town where we were, and it's a very impact on the community of 10,000 people.
As an outside perspective, can I think that your most impactful thing has been?
Sure.
Your 2 adopted kids.
Oh, well, thank you. You kind of know the story behind that. They kind of rescued us as well, so
yeah,
that was a win-win as well. Thank you.
I mean, that's living out the changing lives right there, brother. So, all right, if you were not in real estate, what would you be doing?
I think I would be doing something in the outdoors, being a bum, living in a shack somewhere. Somebody the other day, if I had such passion for changing people's lives, I'd be a hedonist running around on my mountain bike, kayaking, going to the beach. I'd be playing all the time. So I'd have a job that allowed me to play all the time.
So you would be basically a hippie, is what you'd be.
No word, no mine, I guess. Yeah.
It doesn't surprise me.
We went in the Front Range. You see those guys, and dirtbag was another word that they would say. So
yeah, I just see it as Tom Hanks with the long beard and the long hair. All right, buddy. This is the last one. This is the deep one right here, man. So I kind of set you up for all this. So it's all said and done, and you've lived a really long, fruitful life. What do you want to be known for?
I'm doing it, man. Impacting lives. I mean, that dude really helped me when I was having a hard time. He led me to the next level. If it wasn't for him, I wouldn't be where I am today. So that's the power of the why. I mean, you get up in the morning, you know what your mission is, you're going to get it. So if you know the why behind your $1 million goal, or the why to your 47 transaction goal, or growing your company to 75 agents, 100 agents, it's going to happen. It'll just happen.
Yeah, I love it, the phrase. And you were there. It was a previews up in Vail, and the gentleman that spoke, in fact, I can't think of his name right now, but he says, when you know your why, you can endure any how.
Yeah.
I think it's a perfect way. But all right, brother, man, I absolutely loved and enjoyed having you on the podcast, man. Thanks for sharing yourself. Thanks for sharing your time. Any last words, brother?
Yeah, I want to thank you. Our friendship means a lot to me, and how it organically grew when we could only be around each other a couple times a year has been awesome. Love your family. It was great visiting with them last week, and for 2 weeks ago. And thanks, appreciate you.
Yeah, And we'll look forward to seeing you. We'll be seeing you next week, which is going to be exciting about that too. So, all right, guys. Well, hey, that was another great episode here. It was fantastic to have Keith Everitt on today's podcast. Hope you guys enjoyed it, and we definitely look forward to you on the next episode of Corner Office.